Today we're looking at S-plan wiring with the catchily titled Wago 207-4301 junction box.
Great rig behind us, but it's absolutely freezing.
He always complains about the cold.
Well, it is cold in here. However, we have developed the rig behind us because we were asked the question from our series of videos on smart homes. We looked at the S-plan plus heating system, and somebody contacted us and said, could you go systematically through the S-plan system? And that's what we're going to do today.
Here we are now. Yes, you will remember from that, but we used this junction box in that series to correct the wiring nightmare that was in that house and obviously try and decipher it so we could add an Atmo smart thermostat.
So we've got the rig behind us. We're going to go through each part of the rig so we can just familiarise ourselves before we look at the connections. And we're going to do that in two ways. We're going to physically show the connections that we made in here, as well as giving you a wiring diagram that might be able to help you as well. So let's have a look at the rig behind us then. So here we come, Gordon. Where do you want to start?
Okay, well, I'll start at the junction box. So this is our S-plan wiring junction box. The one we had on site was S-plan plus, so we've just dialed this back to the basic S-plan, which means we have two zone valves. So we have one for the central heating, one for the hot water, which is obviously married up with a cylinder stat.
You're right, yeah. We
have our obviously pump as well to circulate through the system. There's our incoming supply, a nice branded eFIXX fuse spur there. The boiler we've mocked up with this cunning red light, Gary.
Yeah, because if we just pop down and have a look at the Atmo smart thermostat there, it's 12 degrees, which I think is a record for the day. We started off at 6 this morning and we've been here over 12 hours.
That's all that hot air you give, Gary. So this is a wireless thermostat, which is paired with this relay here that we wired in that previous video that goes into the junction box. Okay. This doesn't control the hot water, so we've got a conventional digital timer that does the program for the hot water. We've also got some wireless radiator valves, some smart radiator valves as well. They're completely wired, so they're not connected, they're battery powered, but if you haven't seen that, do check out that video.
So, got a lot going on then.
It's busy, lots of wires.
It is, and that's what puts people off. It's that logical approach you're going to give them, including the layouts of your Wago 221s, in order that people can make these connections. Now, we've done a wiring diagram, which you'll see in bits at the end of the presentation when we put the stages in, but let's see it first of all.
Okay, let's see where we end up at the end of here. So this, this looks incredibly busy because, again, there's lots of wires in, but a lot of them, there's a lot of CPC connections, a lot of neutral connections and a lot of permanent lines. Once you've got rid of them, it actually simplifies, but we will come back to that. But coming in there, obviously we've got our pump, we've got the boiler, we've got our cylinder thermostat, we've got the zone valve for the hot water timer that we showed there, the conventional timer, our zone valve for the heating, and our room thermostat, which is obviously a room thermostat plus timer, plus all those smart functions that we looked at in the Atmo smart videos, and our incoming supply.
Right, so you're going to get two cracks at this. We've got the wiring diagram, which we'll break down at the end of the presentation, as well as we're going to show every single connection that we made in here and the logical approach that you made to do those connections. Yeah. So having tackled a couple of these Wago 207-4301 joint boxes before, Gordon, you think you've got a better layout in order to clearly see the connections in this S-plan heating system? Yeah,
so a few people have asked us, but let's first job, get the connectors loaded up. You obviously need lots of 5-way ones.
Probably a shame they don't make a 10-way one by the looks of things.
Yeah, it is a shame, so we'll have to put some links in to join those together. So again, just slot them down the side. So it is, I've only used 5 ways and a few 2-way 221 connectors in this whole layout. You don't need any 3 ways.
Okay, right, and there is loads of spaces. Is there 60 connecting points?
Yes, and there's still a row at the back we could use if we needed to, but yeah, there's still room around the edge, so no need to go into the middle.
Okay, so loading those in, and then obviously we're going to start looking at maybe, introducing some labels already. I like that.
Yeah, so again, it comes with a labelling strip, and I've printed our label off. I've actually split the neutral block in 2.
Okay, so that's left and right hand side. Is that because you think it's logically going to, from the way your cables lay out, go left and right?
Yeah, and most of the conductors need a CPC connection. So there's our permanent line connections down this side.
Okay,
again, just quite a lot of kit now needs a permanent line.
And what you got this side?
And then either side is the supply out to the boiler and the pump, and then obviously just the interconnections between the zone valves and the thermostats and programmers.
Okay. Right, so they're all locked and loaded. What's your next thing?
So next we need to remember to connect the 5-way ones together, particularly on things like the neutral.
Ah, right, yes, you can put some links in here to make those all the same connection.
Yeah, top tip, do not forget those links.
Oh yeah, you'll have it wired correctly, but not working.
Yeah.
So you can do one for the line as well?
Yeah, so again, just link those across.
Yep, lovely. And one more for the CPCs, is that right?
That's it.
And then we're ready to start putting our conductors in. Which are you going to start with?
So I'm going to just start with a fixed wiring that's come through the back of the box. So again, we're mimicking what we had on site in our smart home takeover. The boiler was on another floor.
Okay.
So obviously that was remote and the wire came in from the back for that.
Okay, lots of people out there will be watching this and hoping it'll give them some help for maybe things such as AM2, AM2S and AM2E. Top tip is to follow the wiring diagram. We've got a slightly different thermostat here, haven't we, in this installation?
Yeah, so fitting a smart thermostat, so that obviously changes things because that's a combination of timer and thermostat in one, so that removes a few wires from the system.
Yeah, however, I think the logical approach, the layout and following the wiring diagram, and we're actually going to introduce one of these at the end of the presentation, aren't we? We can help people.
Yeah, just to show people what we've done here. So again, so I'm just getting rid of some of those, the fixed wiring first.
Okay, so that's the supply gone in. Next one, is that the one to the boiler?
Yeah, so that's the supply out to fire up the boiler.
It's a pleasure though with these 221s, isn't it? Just to lift a lever, push in your conductor and then obviously just close it again. You can just push the fixed wiring ones in, can't you? You don't have to lift the lever, but it's you can end up sometimes pushing hard and bending the conductor if you've not quite got it in the right place.
Now remember, there looks like lots of terminals in here. Okay, this will take up to 60, but remember those traditional, companies like Honeywell and things like that, you'd have a strip of 10 or 12 conductors and your wiring diagrams are labelled accordingly. Yeah,
so those connectors there, and you're probably putting, I don't know, what feels like 25 CPCs into one screwed termination. One gets missing, one gets broken, one gets lost.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously the 221's beautiful and just clip them in.
And it's when you come to do maintenance that you really feel the pain when you've got to say remove a zone valve from a shared connector.
Yeah, I think on site, the video that we showed there was some liberal use of connections and tape and all sorts of stuff, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Okay, so still doing neutrals, yeah?
Yeah, neutral. So this is the supply out to our central for the hot water programmer. So again, we're using this as a smart heating system.
Right.
But we still do need a timer for the hot water, and you'll notice the black conductor there's been oversleeved in blue because that's the neutral supply to a 3-core and earth.
Okay. I notice you've used ferrules on all your flexible cables.
Yep, so you make life easier for us, and obviously the next person in, if they need to do some maintenance, you will notice there's lots of different colours.
Okay.
Because we have different size conductors that go from 0.5 millimetre squared all the way up to 1 millimetre squared, depending on what we're connecting.
Right, okay, so still going away with the CPCs now. Clear those out of the way now, is that the case?
Yeah, so I've done the fixed wiring. Let's just get rid of all the CPCs. You could do that at the end if you wanted to, or at the start. It's amazing actually, once you've got rid of the permanent line, neutral and CPC, there's not that many wires left.
Okay, yeah. And again, as we said, follow the wiring diagram. This just makes a logical layout and a lot easier for you to understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right, they all in?
They're all in, so let's just start.
Oh, no, missed one. Yeah. So there we go. So, yeah. Right, that's cleared those out. And you see the pattern now, can you? Left-hand side neutrals, right-hand side neutrals, and the CPCs all in the centre, logical.
Yeah, otherwise it'd be a lot more wires crossing over from both sides.
So get rid of some neutrals now.
Yeah, so just the ones out to our...
You could introduce a few cable ties at some point. There are advantages and disadvantages of doing that, isn't there?
Yeah, so it can make it look very tidy, but if you need to go back in to do any maintenance, you're going to have to cut them off straight away to remove something like a zone valve.
Well, to me already it looks reasonably tidy. Remember, there's going to be a lid on it. We're going to be looking back there every 2 days at the connections, aren't we? So there we go. So a few more neutrals.
Yeah, a few more. And then we're going to look at our permanent line connections.
Right, okay. Put that one in. Yeah, looks good. Yeah.
So again, I've left room. This would also accommodate S-Plan Plus, so you'll see there's some spare ways at the end there if you're going to add, say, another zone valve.
Okay, yeah. Right.
So look at some permanent lines. So this is a feed out to our smart thermostat. So there's 2 permanent lines required. One to feed the electronics that connected to the system, and then one to also feed the volt-free relay as well. So that's common across a lot of different types of smart thermostat to do that.
Okay, but you could configure it for a standard old rotary thermostat, thermostat as well, couldn't you?
Yeah. And there's the permanent feed to the zone valves as well, the grey wires that have just gone in there.
Yeah.
So next we're going to look at
Pick one.
the supply out to the boiler.
Yeah.
So the pump and the boiler, I've already done the boiler, this is the supply out to the pump.
Yeah. And again, you're trying to just stack them in the best way you can with the flexes coming in the bottom, yeah?
Yeah, and there's just the orange wires that are returned from the zone valves, from the micro switch in the zone valve when that's in the closed position to light the boiler and set the pump going.
Right, so we're nearly there now, yeah.
Yeah, so again, there's a spare way there if you had to say there was another zone valve for an S-Plan Plus system.
Okay.
So let's just finish the easy one. It's the heating. So it's again the return from our combination of room thermostat and timer.
Yeah.
So that makes it a lot simpler. And just then connect that to the live supply out to the zone valve.
Yeah.
So again, just 2 connections for that. And then repeat the process for the hot water. So I've got our supply from the time clock, and then I'm going to send that out to the cylinder thermostat.
Okay, so that's grey identified with brown sleeving, yeah?
Yeah. And then just again, so there's the supply out to the thermostat. And then it returns, but again, this has been over sleeved because it's a blue conductor, but it's actually a line conductor when it returns.
Okay.
And then the last one to put in is just again the supply out to operate the motor in the zone valve for the hot water.
Right, okay, so all in. So that was nice, easy connections. Again, I'm sure people have got their opinion on what that looks like and whether cable ties will be needed. Remember, the cover's going to go on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you could shorten the wires. I mean, but I've left enough slack in the flexible cables should you need to make any adjustments.
Nice use of heat shrink there as well to identify each of the cables as well, making it nice and simple. Yeah. There we go, so that's the layout.
Yeah, so yeah, permanent line down there.
Yeah.
And then that was split neutrals. Again, with room for expansion if we're going to add an S-Plan Plus.
Okay, yeah.
This side, CPCs in the middle.
Okay, and again, there is plenty of room for extra connectors in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
You've got some down the left and right hand side that could be added if needed.
Yeah, and then if you had another heating zone, there's room for some more 2 or 3 ways at the bottom there as well.
So we've said it a few times throughout that presentation, a logical approach, and you've spread those connections out in a logical sequence as well, making it easier. And I think the end product actually gives you something that's quite simple to look at, even though it looked at the start probably more complicated than it was.
Yeah, and certainly easier to fault find than those older style junction boxes you have in there, or the rat's nest that we faced when we first had to put this Wago box in that previous video. So check that out if you haven't seen it. But I guess now, guys, let's just revisit that and step through the process as you did there in a slightly different order, because obviously it depends on the wiring system you're using, but I've done this in a logical way that deals with each group of conductors.
Right.
So the first thing I did, obviously, we loaded up the Wago terminals and put in the shorting links to join those together. So it's obviously connecting the CPCs and those 5-way line connectors and our neutral that's arranged at either side of the junction box.
Am I going to be able to get a copy of this after this presentation? There'll be a link in the description for these?
If we're feeling generous, Gary, we will put a link to it so someone can download it, and we'll probably build a dedicated page on the eFIXX website and link to that.
So the links are in. What's next?
So next, I thought we'll deal with the permanent line connections.
Right, okay.
So again, that's out to our zone valves, our heating programmer, and our room stat. Again, the room stat has 2 permanent line connections to it, because one is to feed the electronics to make it operate. The other one is to feed the volt-free contact on the relay that obviously feeds back into our heating system.
Okay, so they're in. So where we go next?
So next one, step through, deal with the neutral connections next. So again, depending on the type of wiring, you can see I've used a black conductor then over sleeved in blue that goes out to our hot water timer.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Then we're going to look at the boiler and pump.
Yeah, so again, get rid of the live connections out to the boiler and the pump. So again, there's room in that terminal if we were going to add, say, an S-Plan Plus, which would add an extra zone valve, and there'd be an additional orange wire in there.
Okay, what do you want to go to next?
So again, then let's just look at, again, the final connections for our central heating. So again, because we're using a smart thermostat, there isn't as many wires as you might have in a traditional system because there isn't a separate timer that's built into the thermostat itself. So we have a return from the thermostat, and then again that feeds straight into the zone valve for the heating system.
All right, okay. So, and then
that all it leaves us was just the hot water connections. So again, a return supply from our hot water timer that feeds into the cylinder stat, which comes back in the blue wire there. But again, that's been oversleeved in brown because it is a line conductor. And then that again goes out to the zone valve for the hot water.
So again, we're breaking it down section by section to that logical approach in order to make these connections. Of course, we've got the advantage of the 221s as well with these connections.
And then obviously just one set of connections to make, and that's obviously our CPCs. And there's only one wire in there that doesn't have one, and that's to our room stat. Now it depends on the brand. Some of them do still have a CPC conductor to them, and there is still a spare wear in our block to do that. But yeah, that's the system complete. And just to
give us a full overview.
Back to the composite view, which looks incredibly busy.
Yeah,
that's it.
But again, worst case scenario, you could screenshot that and you've got a fighting chance and to install the system that we've got behind us. Yeah. So we've walked it through stage by stage. We've got a wiring diagram that will be hopefully downloadable in a link below. Yeah, no pressure to you there, Gordon. Okay, that will teach you for the 12 degrees that we're currently working in here at nearly 8:30 at night.
Just stop there, Gary.
Yes.
What's that red LED on there?
My heated vest.
Yeah.
Okay, what was yours not on?
Mine's not on.
Okay, heated vest.
Heated vest. Check out the review on these as well that we've done. If you're working in a cold warehouse late at night looking at S-plans, probably won't have the heating on. You might benefit from one of these.
Yeah, you might do. And then obviously we've walked you through all the physical connections. So hopefully it's answered the question that we were obviously asked in the comments. We will try and answer as many as we can. In this case, we answered it with a physical rig and actually a walkthrough demonstration. Often it's just a reply.
If someone has a better layout of a better suggestion on possibly rearranging those terminals in a different way, put those comments below. We'd obviously like to hear your feedback or any other central heating related tales you may like to tell us.
And again, if somebody's struggling in those comments and you can answer it, please answer it on our behalf. We'd love a community that helps each other within those comments. We're always interested in your comments and we will try as hard as we can to get back to as many as we can.